Hey friends, I'm doing a post from the car, as you can see, because I am at my daughter's, not first, but second piano lesson ever. And so I'm having this remarkable experience of, this is a teacher that I found about a year ago, and we came and had one lesson about a year ago, and it was great. It was, the woman was lovely. Everything was really, really great. But it was also, somehow it just felt like starting that process was just going to be a little much. And I had this voice in my head. I literally had I kept thinking, oh, I want to reach out. I want to, you know, I'm curious to see if Annalise would take to the piano now that she's kind of down the road a bit with violin. She's had a chance to just poke around on the keyboard at home and sort of figure some things out. And a voice in my head kept saying, don't reach out yet. You're going to know when the right time is. You're going to know when it's the right moment. Well, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I was talking to my wife, and we were talking about just generally how music education works and what it means to be helping a child learn music. We just had a nice, it went way beyond music. It was just kind of like our overall perspective on raising this amazing young person that we have in our life. And at some point, Katie looked at me and said, yeah, but you know Anayumi, right? So you can go to her. I think you should reach out to her and start. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, thanks, voice in my head. You were right. I did know the right moment. There was a very clear right moment, next moment to start this process. So we walked in today, and it just felt like walking into a dream. It felt like she immediately started resonating. She immediately started being talkative. Annalise can be quite shy around new people. So watching her just sort of like within, you know, the first 60 seconds or so, start to talk with full voice and be really confident and just sharing stuff with herself. The fact that I can walk out in the middle of a lesson and go to the car, oh my gosh. So anyway, so that process has begun, and I am, and immediately after this, we're getting on the road to go on vacation. We're getting on the road to go to Tucson for a couple days. We get a little time to just relax, enjoy, play. And I think what I spoke about yesterday is still resonating within me. You know, yesterday I talked a little bit about embracing our nature. Which maybe sounds kind of obvious as maybe doesn't need much explanation, but I take that as a kind of counterpoint to the continual self-reflection and to some degree, you know, self-scrutiny that we generally undergo when we are a certain kind of reflective person in the world today. We sort of are just used to being we're used to a certain amount of self-scrutiny and a certain amount of it can be self-criticism, not necessarily in a negative way, but it can also turn into that. It can also become a little bit like we overanalyze ourselves, over-witness our whole thing happening. And something that really shows up for me around the idea of embracing our nature, embracing my nature, is a feeling of wanting to use whatever I do in service of healing. And Annalise today, she walked into the kitchen and she said, "Papa, I want you to buy me a book about healing with my hands, only with my hands." She doesn't want a book about Qigong healing. She's seen those in the house. She doesn't want a book about medical doctor healing. She wants, and she said she wanted a big book. "I want a big book. I want you to get me a big book about healing with your hands." And I was like, "Wow, child. Okay, I'll find you a big book about healing with your hands." That's the most remarkable request any 5-year-old has ever made of me. Granted, I interact with a limited number of 5-year-olds, but this feels out of the ordinary. A book about healing with my hands. And, you know, it's interesting to me because I have always felt like I work through music, the medium I most, well, the medium that feels like my most cultivated medium is definitely music. I also have a love of writing and a love of the written word and expressing myself through the written word. But in either case, it feels like whatever the medium is the vehicle of transmission for the purpose of healing. And when I'm teaching, I'm trying to heal. And when I'm playing, the intention is to heal. And if I'm writing or communicating, it feels like the intention is to heal. And it's just remarkable to me how present that already is for my 5-year-old daughter. That is not where I was at age 5. I was not thinking about being a healer with my hands, using the energy from my hands to heal. That was not on my radar as a 5-year-old. Her other teacher, her violin teacher, is somebody who she's said many times, she said, I almost went to med school several times throughout my going to college and afterwards doing music. She's a professional musician, professional performer and teacher. But she said she any number of times almost stepped over into medicine, into healing. And she still goes on these work trips and does a certain amount of work in that modality, or at least support for people who are deep into that modality. So when I think about embracing my nature and embracing our nature, what comes up for me is giving myself permission to come from that place, to be a healer. And then being willing to appreciate those impulses and that consciousness that it's all about healing. That whether it's music or whatever, it's ultimately about this deeper healing. Letting myself kind of just clock that and you know, because it's almost like I have to marinate in that in order for it to really sink in. But the number of sort of ways it's showed up for me recently and been, you know, not just in me, also in my daughter particularly, how often that has felt. And I have to say, I had a conversation yesterday, I talked about it in my post, with a work colleague we're not currently working. Well, we are kind of working together, but it's been an on and off relationship. But where I had, I know he's got some trauma, and I felt like, well, ultimately this work, this project we're doing, it's got to be about healing, and it's got to be about healing him, not just me. It's got to be about healing him. So that's part of what shows up for me as I think about embracing my nature and being true to what I'm really about in this world. It's about healing. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate you. Much, much love. I'll see you soon. Next time I talk to you, I'll be in Tucson, Arizona. Hopefully it'll be a little warmer. I'm watching ice fall from the sky. Anyway, see you soon.